Welcome everyone to the webinar Doing Business in Taiwan after COVID-19. This webinar is organized by Rfio, the Netherlands Enterprise Agency, and the Netherlands Office Taipei. I'm very glad to see so many of you. We've received a little bit over 100 registrations. Also special thanks for the group from Utrecht who is joining us. They have a group of over 30 businesses together in Utrecht, organized by the EBU. Especially thank you, Jaap Breugem, International Director there. First, a practical point. Please stay muted. We've put everybody on muted automatically, but please stay muted. This is in order to make sure that there's no background noise during this webinar. Cameras, well, I would advise to turn them off in order to save bandwidth. And very important, questions to the chat box. We will be monitoring the chat box during this webinar. And after all the presentations, there will be a brief Q&A in which we try to answer some of the questions. And finally, in the end, there will be a final Q&A in which we want to do all the questions which have not been answered yet.
Can everybody hear us?
Well, sound is perfect, I see there. So then we go to the agenda. Yes, the agenda. So first we have an introduction by our representative of the Netherlands in Taiwan, Mr. Guy Wittits, who will also talk about the successful approach of Taiwan to COVID-19, after which we go into the impact COVID-19 had on Taiwan's economy, innovation cooperation, and agriculture, after which we will have a Q&A with Dutch entrepreneur Jeroen Uitenhout, who recently set up his business here, Workshop Taipei. To finally conclude this, well, actually the last presentation will be from Rfio, Dutch Enterprise Agency, Jan-Willem Oosterbroek, about international business support measures from the Netherlands Enterprise Agency. And finally, we will have the last Q&A round. So now I would like to give the floor to Mr. Guy Wittits, representative of the Netherlands Office Taipei. Guy, please take my seat.
Thank you very much, Diederik, and welcome everyone there in the Netherlands. It's good to see so many people joining us today. Today, I would like to do a short introduction of who we are, our office here in Taiwan. I will tell a little bit also about the situation on COVID-19, and also what the forecast is for further opening up of foreign travelers into Taiwan. So let's go to the first slide. We are the Netherlands Office Taipei. We are the representation here of the government in Taiwan, and in particular in the areas of economic and trade, agriculture, innovation, science and technology, investments, culture and education, and also we provide consular services. In the area of trade and investment, what we do is we assist Dutch companies with inquiries about the market. We organize trade missions. We have organized many trade missions in the last couple of years in the areas of offshore winds, semiconductor, startups, smart industries and healthcare, water management and circular economy. And these are also the focus areas that we have as an office. In the area of culture, in particular, I would like to mention that we have had about 400 artists from the Netherlands last year. At the moment, of course, because of COVID-19, we're unable to organize trips to Taiwan, but that will happen certainly in next year when things are going to open up further. And of course, we also do education, and at the moment we have a working holiday plan that should start very soon, and we have already applicants for that coming to our office, and that there's a lot of interest from Taiwanese students to go to the Netherlands for that. On Taiwan's approach to COVID-19, I think you probably have heard a lot about it and read about it in also in the news. Taiwan is the success story. Taiwan has been free of local infections for nearly 3 months. There are about 440 mostly imported cases, but hardly any local cases, so no breakouts, and only 7 deaths over the whole period. And Taiwan's approach has been prevention instead of curing. So at the borders of Taiwan, there have been a very strict screening of cases, an early intervention. And the government really has been very successful in building up trust among the population. And so there's a sense of security. And so if you walk around in the streets in Taiwan, it's really busy. The restaurants are also busy. Everyone is wearing masks, and that is really something that everybody follows. And there's a lot of innovation as well in innovative ways of still keeping safe. Now, if you look at what will happen in the coming months, and what's happening now is recently Taiwan announced that travel is allowed again from overseas into Taiwan, but there is a strict 14-day quarantine, and that is really strictly monitored. And it's open at the moment only for 3 categories. One are the alien resident certificate holders, the ones that are living in Taiwan, foreigners living in Taiwan. The second category are business travelers with special permits that can be applied for at the Taipei representative office in the Netherlands. But here I have to say that this is at the moment only for contract obligation. So it's the maintenance of equipment, it's for signing contracts, but it's at the moment not intended for a new business development. And the third category are diplomats and representatives of foreign trade offices here. And so these categories are open. We expect further opening, but it's really hard to say when that will happen. There are a lot of factors that play a role in that. And one of them, of course, is what the situation will be in Europe, in the Netherlands. And we hope that things will change in the coming months ahead. That is from my side. Next is Diederik, who's going to tell you a bit more about the Taiwan economy, and in particular, where we see the opportunities for Dutch business. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Guy. Yeah, so Taiwan's economy. Well, Taiwan's economy is doing still very well, I would say. Considering the circumstances, the government expects 1.67% economic growth this year. This is 1% less than at the start of this year. That was 1.7%. So in this way, you could say that COVID-19 has had a small negative impact on Taiwan's economy. Mainly, of course, because the economy stayed open, so it was still business as usual. For the majority of the economy. I would like to say that 4 industries have done especially well over the last 4.5 years. Semiconductors, telecommunication equipment, ICT, e-commerce and healthcare equipment. We've really seen a growing global demand for these industries, especially in the semiconductor industry. We saw companies like TSMC, UMC, even Vanguard will really beat the forecast, so the market forecast in the first 2 quarters. So that have been the winners of the last half year. Now, where Taiwan had its negative impact by COVID-19 has really been actually similar to other countries. Of course, travel industry, tourism, no international travelers are traveling to Taiwan. So tourism, which relies for a large part on international tourism, has been down. But also retail, because even though there was no lockdown, Taiwanese consumers have been very careful, cautious. So there was a decline in public spending. And in order to combat this, the Taiwanese government has implemented an economic stimulus plan, including in total 30 billion euro, around 30 billion. So that's quite a lot, 5% of Taiwan's GDP. And this includes subsidies for the hard-hit industries like travel agencies, tour operators, but it also includes vouchers to Taiwanese citizens in order for them to stimulate their spending. but also special loans for the Taiwanese airlines, who of course have had a terrible year. If you look at the industrial sector, we see that the impact has been quite early on, actually, when the virus started in China already at the end of January, because we see the petrochemical industry, automotive, machine tools, which really saw a big decline in February already, in March. And this is really because of their integration with the Chinese mainland market. For example, petrochemical industry, they saw orders drop of like more than 50% over February. We then look in the future, we see two main risks. The first one is the large uncertainty of the global economic recovery, especially in the end markets, US and Europe, because at the moment Taiwan's economy is still doing well, but Taiwan really is an exporting economy, and the high-tech industry has been doing very well. But if the global economy doesn't recover as well as hoped, that will have a negative impact here in Taiwan eventually. Another big risk we see is the US-China trade dispute. This has been intensifying in the last few months. And the elections coming up in the US, we don't expect this will be over anytime soon. And it's, we have especially the US export restrictions on foreign companies using American technology or American equipment to supply Chinese companies, especially Huawei, could have a negative impact, because this would directly impact TSMC, and that will be really quite a bad impact of Dutch trade to Taiwan, because this would impact companies like ASML, but also other Dutch suppliers to TSMC. Speaking about Dutch trade to Taiwan, before this year, it has been really upgoing trend. Dutch exports grew to 8 billion euro last year, making Taiwan the second largest destination for Dutch exports in Asia. So this has been going very well. We also see many opportunities here, especially in the high-tech sector, semiconductors already mentioned, but also photonics, cybersecurity, and tech startups. Unfortunately, the trade missions we were planning this year will not be happening, but we're working on some online events to still promote the Dutch businesses here in Taiwan, and still try to bridge them and help them to get over here in Taiwan. Also for offshore wind, of course, Taiwan still has large, ambitious 10 gigawatt offshore wind energy in 2035. And for this, we also have the Energy Taiwan Expo coming up in October. And there will also be an online component. So this is an event to watch. But also in water, we see opportunities for water management. Taiwan still has typhoons and still a lack of water in the months before the typhoon season. Agriculture, we will have our agriculture director talk about that later. But also healthcare and life sciences, Taiwan has a lot to offer, and is also looking to invest in new innovations. So this is also a promising area. Now, how can our office help? Our office is really the first contact window for Dutch businesses going to the Taiwanese market. We can offer a range of economic services, like we can help with market research, providing information about the Taiwanese market, but also matchmaking introductions to Taiwanese counterparties. So we would really like to hear from you about your questions and about how we can help you. We would really like to engage in the conversation. And with that, I would like to move to our first Q&A session. So let's see, take a look at the questions we have received. Oh, I need to make place also for a representative, of course. Looking at the questions we received already quite some questions also during the registration. So we'll go to questions out of the chat box in the registration. The first one from Jaap Beiersbergen from Levitech, a question about what are the investment plans after Corona for Taiwan? Would you like to say something about this, Guy?
Yes, well, actually, I'd like to refer to the inaugural speech of President Tsai, in which he outlines the economic policies. And what is very clear is that the focus will be on high tech. The semiconductor industry was mentioned as one of the first ones, but also the digital economy. And of course, related to COVID-19 is to capacitate Taiwan in the areas of medical supply. And we have seen it already in the last 3-4 months, where companies have been setting up production lines for PPE and of course for the mouth caps and all that. And that trend will continue. And this was also particularly mentioned in her speech. We talked very recently, actually yesterday, I had a meeting with the Minister of Science and Technology and kind of repeated the areas. And of course, biotech is also an area where we will see a lot of investments. And I think also a lot of opportunities for Dutch business. But later on, I think we have a young Jakai of our the Innovation, Technology and Science network that will tell a bit more about those areas. Yeah.
Very good, very good. I see we also just get a question in about, specifically about the creative industry. Yeah, an interesting industry which we haven't mentioned, of course. But yeah, there are actually quite a lot of Dutch architects here in Taiwan who have recently yeah, quite big projects, of course. Also for Dutch designers that have visited Taiwan quite frequently. Yeah, but maybe the architecture sector, is that something you would like to say something about?
Yeah, I mean, it's really remarkable that there are many Dutch architect firms active in Taiwan, and have been very successful in winning the competitions for major public construction projects. And I think one of the major projects that we all know is the Wei-Win Theater Center in Kaohsiung, the largest in Asia, which was built by Meccano. MVRDV, who also developed and they opened the Spring Garden project in Tainan, and there are many, and I think those firms are kind of leading in this respect. So I guess there's a larger market. If I be also a word of caution, and these are very interesting projects, but they're also difficult projects because these are a public procurement project. So you have to deal with, in many cases, local government. And so you must be willing to invest time and efforts in that. So they're very prestigious projects, but they're also not easy projects. If I may talk on behalf of the architects that are involved. I should also mention OMA, who is here, Rem Koolhaas, with the construction of a large theater complex in Taipei.
Yeah, that have been amazing projects. Yeah, I see actually really a lot of questions coming up. So sorry for the ones we don't answer. I think we have time for one more question during this round, and then there will be another round at the end after each presentation.
Maybe this one is from Jaap.
Yeah,
it is a good one.
How about the tenders?
Yeah. So many tenders in Taiwan are there's a request for or requirement for local partner. So you can only participate with a local partner. So there are requirements, but it really depends on the project. So you should look at a project by project basis. I'm looking at Jody now, but most of the projects are on the internet, and that all the requirements are listed there. So, and if these are international tenders open for international companies, then they should be in English as well. But if they're not open, then it's also a possibility that you can find a local partner and cooperate with them. So checking with our office would be an advice to do here. Anyhow, if you know about a project in Taiwan.
Okay. Well, I think we still have time for one question. I see a question about the quality of healthcare equipment here in Taiwan. Well, my experience with Taiwanese healthcare has been very positive. I think healthcare equipment is very good. Though Philips Healthcare is doing very well here as well. Do you have any experience with Taiwanese healthcare equipment?
Yeah, they have a very high standard, and I have to look at Jody here because she is our health expert. Do you want to come here, Jody? Join us. Jody Chan, who is with our Department of Economic Development, and Jody, can you just say a few words about the healthcare equipment and the sector here in Taiwan?
Yes, Taiwan is actually developing the smart healthcare technology. So there are lots of companies developing smart healthcare equipment. So and recently there's a event going to be organized in September. There is a smart healthcare business matchmaking will be held online. So the organizer is also looking for 3 Dutch participants. So the 3 Dutch participants, if they are working in the smart healthcare sector, they can submit their company profile to us. Then we will contact with the organization to see whether there's an opportunity for you to present your company, your product, your service online in this event.
Yeah, thank you very much. Great.
Great. Yeah, so with the whole economic team here, I think looking at the time now, we will move on to the next presentation, which will be by our colleague Zika Yang, Senior Officer for Innovation, Technology and Science at the Netherlands Innovation Network of our office, Netherlands Office Taipei. We'll talk about the impact of COVID-19 on innovation, science and technology collaboration. Kai, can you start?
Right. Okay, thank you, Diederik, for the introduction. And yeah, I always take a while to share the file. So before I begin, I would like to say it's really a pleasure to be able to present in this event because we actually see innovation as the bridge to, it might not be direct business, but also a means to enter a market. So it means for Taiwan, particularly, if you know the domestic market is not really that big, but you can actually have a lot of advantages working with Taiwanese companies because of their excellence in manufacturing or in some other areas. So in the next 7 minutes, I'll try to provide you an overview of the innovation activities in Taiwan and also the things that we're working on, so to provide you with an overall pictures of what to expect if you decide to come to Taiwan. So first of all, I would like to first introduce the network I'm working for, the Netherlands Innovation Network worldwide. So it's not just the office in Taipei. Also, the network is started back in 1953, so making us 67 years old now. So we have around 45 of us in 17 economies, 22 cities around the world. And in Asia, we have office in Singapore, in Korea, in Japan, 3 locations in China, India, and also in Taipei. And what do we do? So our main objective is, of course, to strengthen Dutch innovation power by connecting companies, research institutes, and governments worldwide based on knowledge and network. And for personally, I actually see the biggest added value in terms of breaking the cultural barrier, which is really important if you want to do business in Asia and also in Taiwan. So the activities we work on, including knowledge creation, we try to gather local information such as sector information or policy information provided to the Netherlands. We try to stimulate information exchange. We identify and connect to the knowledge partner, either through events or one-on-one basis. But if we see any potential opportunity in any area, we're proactively organizing events such as missions, workshops, matchmaking, or seminar, either in Taiwan or sometimes we do organize events in the Netherlands. And to facilitate collaboration, you need external resources. So we're also helping to identify and create incentives for collaboration, which includes EU funding scheme, multilateral or bilateral local subsidies, or we help to set up collaboration schemes between companies or organizations. And all of this would not be possible without support of a network. Besides our home base in The Hague and colleagues all over the world, we are connected to various agencies in Taiwan. So we work a lot with government agencies in Taiwan to establish a collaboration framework. But we're also working closely with associations, research institutes who are closely connected to the key industrial players to identify the right person and to help to introduce us to the right person. And also we work with opinion leaders. So the question you might have is, why Taiwan? So I'll illustrate with the example that we see. So maybe the domestic market in Taiwan is not as attractive as mainland China, Japan, or Korea, but people do come to Taiwan for talents, for technology development, and Taiwan has fairly sound ecosystem for innovation development. So what we do is that we try to focus on the strength of the Dutch in the Netherlands and Taiwan and try to create synergies between them. So here I'll use some actual examples of the forms of collaborations in Taiwan and also the reason behind. So for example, if you're an academic researcher, at the moment there's an NWO-MOST agreement on research exchange and organizing joint symposium, which is really a good tool for you to start making friends and knowing your research partner. And if you are interested in technology development, currently in Taiwan, there's a research subsidy available for foreign companies. So this has attracted multinationals such as Microsoft, Google, Amazon Web Services, and IBM to set up the research units in Taiwan. And if you're interested in technology collaboration integration, Taiwan is known for ICT manufacturing. So let me take the cybersecurity, for example. Some Dutch companies are working on software solutions and actually see potential of embedding the software solutions into the hardware manufactured by Taiwan. So we actually see a potential in collaboration. And surprisingly, Taiwan is actually a place for technology demonstration. So I'll use the example of Dutch company Technobiz. So 2 years ago, we actually helped them to establish a demonstration work with Taipei 101, which is the tallest building in Taiwan at one time was the tallest building in the world. And also supported by the government, Taiwan is also a place for joint market exploration. So the government is facilitating local companies to explore new markets in countries such as Vietnam, Malaysia, and Indonesia. And they're also happy to have foreign partners to join them. And also, I think from the previous presentation, you're aware that Taiwan has excellent manufacturing facilities, and which is, which might be beneficial to the Dutch innovation. So we actually see Dutch companies taking advantage of the Taiwan's excellence in terms of manufacturing, or in the semiconductor industry in particular, in manufacturing, packaging, and testing, and trying to set up their supply chain in Taiwan. And for our office, at the moment, we actually operate depending on the service and the solutions that you have. We usually work in the technology readiness level from 3 to 8, which is before commercialization. We focus on a few specific topics. So the topics include photonics, cybersecurity, and general research collaboration. But there are also secondary topics which we work on in collaboration with the economic departments, which includes circular economy, energy, for innovation, and artificial intelligence. So what is the impact of COVID-19 to our work? So of course, it's mainly due to the travel ban. So now it's no longer possible for you to fly over to Taiwan, and therefore many of the pre-planned activities are not possible. For example, 3 years ago, we invited Boyang Slat, the founder of the Ocean Cleanups, to meet the president of Taiwan and various ministers for his fundraising activity. And last year, during the cybersecurity mission, we organized a high-level roundtable session. So was chaired by the senior advisor to the president of cybersecurity. And also, it's no longer possible to organize big conference, seminars, and matchmaking events. But however, at the moment, we're actually busier than ever. So we're adapting to the situation, and we're trying to provide as much information as possible. So in terms of the areas we're working on, in terms of knowledge creation, this year we published 2 reports, one on artificial intelligence and one on cybersecurity sector in Taiwan. And we still try very hard to stimulate information exchange and knowledge exchange. So in June, we organized 3 sessions of Photonics Webinars, altogether with 18 speakers or 8 different topics. And on the topic and the sector of cybersecurity, we organized 2 webinars on the business opportunity in Taiwan and the Netherlands. And during this period, we actually received more inquiries from Dutch companies and also research institutes. So we are working on various one-on-one services or helping them identify and connecting to the knowledge partners. And we are still working on organizing events. So for example, for cybersecurity, instead of a physical event, we're at the moment, we're organizing a virtual cyber mission. And for photonics, we're still planning to organize a physical mission at the end of October. And so, but I think at the moment we're still trying to also help to try to identify and create incentives for collaboration, which is really important and really suitable for this period of time. So at the moment, we're helping the NWO and MOST to establish a joint call on photonics, which will be announced later this year. And then during this time, we also help a Dutch company to establish a demonstration partnership with the Taipei Mass Rapid Transit Company, which is the metro company and the city governments. So in a nutshell, well, it's business as usual in Taiwan. So we welcome you to visit Taiwan and to see what we can help you with.
Great, Guy. Thank you for the wonderful presentation and sharing of your work. I see there's one question from Course Scheppens about the Photonics webinars, when they are, and maybe you could elaborate very briefly.
Okay. For the Photonics
about
webinars,
the Photonics webinars. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And for the Photonics webinars, they've already been organized. So that was in June, but we have recorded all 3 episodes, or we call them episodes. And then we are, at the moment, we are translating the videos and putting on Chinese subtitles because, well, the main idea is to trying to demonstrate and showcase the Dutch excellence in photonics. And we realize there's actually a language barrier. So local people are reluctant to join the online webinar because it was in English. So we will have it recorded. And now at the moment, we're having it translated and we'll put it online sometime in mid-August.
Okay, great. Then, Lacey, can we have the slides back? Then we can go to our next speaker. Let's first get the presentation out. We have yes, because the main next speaker will be Kelare Nader, or Agriculture Director at the Netherlands Office Taipei, who will talk about the impact of COVID-19 on agriculture business here in Taiwan. Kelare, the floor is yours. Just let me know when I have to go to the next slide.
Okay, thank you, Didrik. Good morning, everybody. My name is Kelare Nader. I am, as Didrik said, the Agriculture Director in Taipei. Some of you might know me from the webinar we did for South Korea, because I'm also the agriculture counselor in South Korea. So I'm not going to give a presentation on what we do and what we don't do, because I think some of you, at least the ones working for agriculture or food industry, will know that we basically feed the world and we've been around for 100 years. So that's in a nutshell. What I want to talk about today is what my office is doing in Taipei, what we've been doing during the Corona period and after the pandemic ends. So when COVID-19 started, we started to continuously update all our companies in the Netherlands and also our partners about the developments and the logistic challenges that we are faced with. We've been doing that through newsletter, Agrobericht Buitenland in the Netherlands on the site of Rfio, our Twitter account, LinkedIn, and we also have a lot of communication through email and phone. Also, we've been solving a number of market barriers that were caused by Corona, and we've been dealing with a number of veterinary issues that were raised by the pandemic. What we expect to do after the Corona virus ends, hopefully very soon, elsewhere, is to facilitate the Dutch companies that were hit very hard by this virus, and also to contribute to the post-crisis strategy to assist both the Dutch companies and the Taiwanese companies in the agro-food sector. So let me tell you something about how the agro-food business in Taiwan has been. Didrik, please go to the next slide for me. What we've observed is that can you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. What we've observed is that the importers of flour bulbs, dairy products, pork, potato products, those are the main products that we export to Taiwan, were affected by the increase in shipping fees, shortage of containers, but also transit problems. What we understand is that shipping fees have increased twice, sometimes 3 times their original price in this period. There has been a shortage of containers, but also if a flight was altered or canceled, the goods would go to an alternative transit country. And if that country had any problems with bird flu or plant diseases, then that would create problems for those goods once they would arrive in Taiwan. Fortunately, the demand for a number of products has not decreased in Taiwan. So if you look at dairy products or pork, potato products, those have almost not decreased. But what we see is that, for example, cut flowers and flower bulbs, they have been affected because there are less events, and the local government in Taiwan actively discourages people to have very big gatherings. So that is one of the industries that we have been trying to pay some attention to. The main exports of Taiwan in agriculture products are fruits and also cut flowers, and their main markets are in Japan and in China. However, as the market is declining, growers or farmers that would import the flower bulbs, for example, from the Netherlands, they are very reluctant. So these are insecure times for them. They place less orders from the Netherlands, and we see a decline in those sectors. Also, for example, if you look at the fishing industry, we see that there's a shortage of labor because they depend greatly on foreign fishing crew. So we've seen some decline there, but that industry is recovering very slowly. And at the beginning of COVID-19, we also saw an impact on agritourism, but that has also recovered itself. In Taiwan, however, as there are less tourists coming in, it is very local still. So if we go to the next slide, I can point out a number of observations that we have done in Taiwan regarding agri-food markets and products, and what we can do with them, and where we see opportunities for an increase in for cooperation with Dutch companies. So first of all, we've seen, can you go one slide back, please? First of all, what we see is an increase in online food markets. More people have been trying to buy food online as outside the COVID-19 pandemic, they would go to a local market or they would go into a traditional farmer's market and they would buy their food there and their fruits there. But as a lot of those markets closed with the outbreak of the virus, a lot of people started buying their food online. This comfort of buying online, we expect will stay on after the pandemic is over. So they will still go to a farmer's market, but not as much as before. They will do most of their shopping online. And with that, what we see is a digital divide in Taiwan. What that means is that we see that there is a very big gap between small and traditional old farmers and the online sellers. The old or traditional farmers, most of them are old in Taiwan. They don't have the knowledge or the means to be selling their products online, and they don't know how to market it. So we see an opportunity for cooperation with Dutch institutes, but also Dutch companies, because we have more information about how to be an entrepreneur if you're a farmer, and how can you market your products online. So there is an opportunity for cooperation for us. And the other things that we have basically seen in Taiwan is that there is a definite need for upgrading the agriculture and modernizing it. There are 3 elements that I will point out here. Obviously, there are more. For example, there is a need to adjust the agriculture production structure in Taiwan. This is necessary to cope with the overproduction of products like aquaculture and fruit. So if you think about, for example, fruits and leafy vegetables in Taiwan, most of them go to restaurants or they go to schools. But when schools close or visitors to restaurants decrease, there is an overproduction and it is important to, at that moment, think about how can we regulate the production structure in Taiwan. At that point, it's important to, for example, have a more stable quality and a guaranteed quantity of production. And when they reach that level, then they can find an overseas market. At this point, they do not export a lot to other countries, very limited, but if they can increase the quality and guarantee the quantity of their production, they can find new markets such as Southeast Asia or even Europe. But for doing that, they also need to upgrade their cold chain and the logistics system. That is very important. And at the same time, this requires a better cooperation in transferring knowledge of greenhouses, a better farm management, e-commerce. So all of those are elements of agriculture that needs to be upgraded and modernized. And the Netherlands has quite a bit of experience with that. And I see quite a bit of opportunities for our partners and Dutch companies to work with the Taiwanese companies and farmers. So let me conclude my presentation with the activities that we are planning to do that are related to Corona. First of all, we are reorganizing the inspection visits because there are new systems for paper inspection as physical inspection is not possible anymore. We are organizing a number of online events such as this one. We are exploring the idea of digital missions, including matchmaking. But we are also doing a number of activities to promote industries that were hit hard by the pandemic. An example is a cut flower promotion that we did on King's Day, where we imported Dutch cut flower and in cooperation with the Netherlands office in Taipei, we distribute those flowers around Taiwan to hospitals that were caring for patients of Corona to show our appreciations to the caretakers, but at the same time to support the farmers that were hit very hard in this industry. Also, in the second half of 2020, this year, we'll be supporting companies at local expos.
I'm sorry, we have to disrupt you. The time is really running out. I see actually quite some questions also for your sector. Maybe we can do one question and then hopefully after the presentation, after the webinar, then time for more. We have one question about how are poultry and pig farms affected by COVID-19? Could you elaborate a little bit on that before we move to the next first presentation?
So far, we don't have any indication of local poultry or pig industries being affected by COVID-19. They are still very efficient. But as you might know, the Netherlands is still exporting quite a bit of pork to Taiwan. So there is still a potential market for the Dutch exporters for pork. Yeah, and the poultry market is not open yet, so yeah.
Okay, thank you. And yes, we'll have more time for more questions at the end of the webinar.
Yeah, thank you.
Now I would like to, thank you. Yes, now I would like to move on to a Q&A with Jeroen Uitenhout, the director of Workspot Taipei. He's a Dutch entrepreneur who just set up his business here in Taipei this year. Jeroen, are you there? Hello, Jeroen.
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes, very well. Great that you're here, and we're very glad that you can join us. It's actually great that your Workspot just had its opening reception just last Friday. And to introduce you, Workspot Taipei is a business service center, actually a kind of ideal place for foreign companies coming to Taiwan to set up operations here. Besides office space, they also arrange company registration. But the question we have for you is, how did COVID-19 impact your business, your plans in setting up an office here?
Yeah, so when COVID-19 arrived in Taiwan, I believe it was around the end of January, around Chinese New Year. And of course, it caught me by surprise. I mean, it's something you don't expect. And I was thinking, yeah, are we doing the right thing? And how will this impact our business? Yeah, so at the end, luckily, I mean, we planned around 2 years ago, we started planning this project. So we were already halfway the execution by doing the construction and the renovation of the building where we now are. So you cannot just suddenly stop. So we had to move on. And at the end, it turned out that actually Taiwan was the safest place in the world regarding the spread of the virus. Because I was really concerned because we're so close to China, and Taiwan was the first country to have cases outside of China. So I was really concerned. But of course, at the end, also society didn't stop. There was no lockdown. We did have some delays in delivery of some of the materials that were needed for the construction. But at the end, luckily, it didn't really impact our business. And also, I think, economy-wise, of course, you know, the local economy still goes on quite normal. They only had very limited measures in place to stop the spread of the virus. But of course, if other countries' economies are not doing well, then eventually it will also affect Taiwan's economy, the export and tourism. But for our business, I think I also saw an opportunity because, you know, we try to provide office solutions for, let's say, affordable price, also for international entrepreneurs. So I thought it's for us also a solution if people are looking for a more cost-effective place. So at the end, I think it didn't really affect our business. And as you know, we just opened Friday, our official opening. And today we signed, or we haven't signed a contract, we have an agreement now for the 4th Dutch organization to register at our business center. So I think so far I cannot complain. And yeah, I'm really happy that the outbreak wasn't as bad as in other parts of the world.
Okay, very, very good to hear. Maybe one other question I have is what kind of advice would you have for other Dutch entrepreneurs, here in Taiwan or who are coming to Taiwan? An open question, but have any thoughts?
My first advice obviously would be contact us if you want to set up a company in Taiwan. Of course, we can help you to register, go through the process step by step. And also, you know, we are trying to be some kind of a hub, you know, where also foreign entrepreneurs can either register, they can just use our address to register their company, or they can have an actual office here or workplace. I think it's very nice to start somewhere where you feel comfortable to get used to a new environment. And I think my second advice would be, you know, don't be afraid to start a business here. Because I think the community is very open, very social, and I think they're also very supportive. As you know, Diederik, I also stay in Japan, and I feel like there's more entrepreneurship here in Taiwan compared to, for example, Japan. And also, I think the support that we are getting from your office, from the Netherlands office here in Taiwan is really great. And I'm really thankful for that. So I would say, don't be afraid to start a business here. And also the political climate, of course, it's very good. It's democracy here. And I think now also with the situation happening in Hong Kong at the moment, I also see a lot of opportunities for Taiwan. Now already some businesses are moving, and I think Taiwan would be a very good alternative for those companies looking now for another location.
Great to hear that, and thank you again for joining us here, and also for the nice words.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, looking at the time, you're welcome. We go to the actually our last presentation for today by Mr. Jan-Willem Oosterbroek, Business Development Coach of Taiwan. We'll talk about international business support measures from Rfio after COVID-19. Jan-Willem, the floor is yours. Just let me know when the next presentation.
Thank you, Diederik. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Well, I'm working at the Netherlands Enterprise Agency, like Diederik mentioned. I'm business development coach not only for Taiwan, but also South Korea. Maybe you saw me in the South Korea webinar as well. I would just like to briefly talk with you a bit about the Corona support activities Rfio is organizing, additionally to all other activities that we offer to Dutch businesses. When Corona started, we mainly focused, of course, on also offering financial compensation and credit options for Dutch businesses to for them to enable them to pay their staff. So we were very busy with that, even now still. Also, it's important for you to know that the national government in the Netherlands has decided that we won't be organizing any physical events or mission until the 1st of September, because most of our events, people need to travel to central location in the Netherlands. So the government decided this is not something we would like now to stop the spread of Corona. Of course, as you know, many countries are now easing measures again to combat Corona, and people are getting back to business now. Rfio is also really supporting entrepreneurs already. We're focusing on entrepreneurs that are already internationally active because they have the time and funds available to really invest also in starting up again. And we also expect that these additional activities will run into the end of next year because, yeah, as you know, it will take quite some time before we're back to normal. Next slide, please. Things we've done so far and we're still doing now. We shared a lot of knowledge and information on Corona. You can see it on our main website, Rfio, if you go to the international business section there. And also some country-specific information. Also, we're organizing more online events like this webinar, but also we're planning digital missions where matchmaking will play a central role in. As you might expect, many activities will not take place. So funds available for these activities are also used for other activities like doing more market research. We will be doing an additional 30 extra studies on promising markets and sectors in different countries, also in Taiwan. It's good for you to know that when these studies are executed, they will be published at the Rfio website, at the country pages, but also shared through Rfio's international newsletter. So all information about studies, events, reports, please subscribe to the Rfio newsletter because they will be shared through this newsletter. From October, we will be starting with organizing physical events again, with the main large event being the National Expert event at 30th of September. And until next year, there will be no major trade fairs or missions because travel will be restricted still to many markets. Instead, we'll be organizing smaller trade mission or trade exhibition visits. Next slide, please. It's good for you to know that all business services we offered before are still available. So if you want to know what we have to offer, please go to Rfio's website. There are also some tools there to see which services might be available or relevant to you as a business. I would like to mention this particular program, the Starters International Business Program. This is a program where grant vouchers are available to hire experts from the market, consultants, for different activities. Here you see a list to develop an internationalization plan, to get legal or fiscal advice from experts, but also some subsidy to take part in a foreign trade fair as an individual, but also as a group to join a trade fair or a trade mission. Finally, there's a new voucher to get market access, for example, to gain more knowledge on the local market. For example, you can have a small market study being executed. Next slide, please. There's one new voucher, the Kickstart voucher, specifically launched for international businesses to deal with the effects caused by Corona. These vouchers are also for already active companies with lots of experience. You can think of activities like developing an international sales and marketing plan, researching new international business models, but also advice on production or supply chain management. Or stock management. You can hire a consultant or expert from the market. More information on this voucher can be found at the Starts International Business page at Rfio. So if you want to know more, please take a look there. Looking at the time, I will leave it at that. I'll give the floor back to Diederik.
Okay, thank you, Jan-Willem, and yeah, thank you for the presentation. Yeah, we've received quite some questions, but actually the nice thing is that also people have been answering questions in the chat box. So we'll use the last 5 minutes. Maybe we go a little bit over time. If you have to leave, I'm sorry, but I think we have some extra questions which would be worth looking into. So maybe we take 5 to 10 minutes extra. Starting with the questions. Yeah, I saw many questions also very specifically about events, which have been answered also by our colleagues at Rfio in the Netherlands. Great that these are answered and that these links are shared in the chat box. I saw a question about elaboration on EV, electric vehicles adoption and charge infrastructure in Taiwan. Yeah, I could quickly say something about that. In that regard, the Netherlands is yeah, really a front runner, of course. Taiwan has done some very innovative projects, like they have the GoGo scooter with this new battery swapping system. But in terms of EV adoption, like with cars, I think there's still quite a way to go here. Nevertheless, they are ambitious. They have yeah, a goal, a long-term goal of 2035 to make public transport, all the buses electric, run electric. But this is still quite some way to go, because at the moment in Taipei, I believe there are only two bus lines which are electric vehicles. So here there is definitely an opportunity, because this needs to develop in the next coming years. Yeah, also in Taipei, there are not that many. Yeah, not that many spots where you can recharge your car if you have an electric car. So this is yeah, definitely an opportunity. I also saw yeah, questions about business development in webinars with Taiwanese organizations. Yeah, we actually just yeah, we have been in discussion actually with TAITRA, the Taiwanese Trade Organization. They organize always during normal times, they organize the big exhibitions. And of course, they're also one of the front runners in trying to digitalize the international trade events. So they will be coming up with some online exhibitions. Yeah, of course, it's not the same as a real physical exhibition, but yeah, they will do what they can in order to yeah, introduce Taiwanese companies to foreign buyers and yeah, promote the Taiwanese industry. And from our side, we are really looking at yeah, helping Dutch companies get on those platforms as well. Let me see if more specific questions. Yeah, we have a question actually for the innovation attaché. Kai, this one's for you. We have a question about call the Taiwan government to understand the tech development strategy for photonics display industry. Kai, we're going to you. Can you say something about the tech development strategy for photonics and displays?
Right. Well, thank you very much. And it happens that I just replied to him in the chat box. So for panel display industry, it's actually one of the biggest industry in Taiwan. There's a few big panel display manufacturers in Taiwan. So this is a mature industry and is seen as one of the economic pillar in Taiwan. And we're actually working very closely with an organization called PIDA, which is the Photonics Industry Technology Development Association, which is also behind the annual Photonics Expos. So if you are interested, we can help you to get connected, and also maybe you can raise any specific question, for example, regarding display or photonics, and we can try to get back to you with the answer.
Okay, great. Thank you, Kai. Yeah, we also received a question actually about our services of the Netherlands office here in Taipei, what we can do from the Utrecht region. So thank you for that question. Yeah, how can you be connected with us? Well, we would very much like to engage with you about your plans for Taiwan. Yeah, preferable by phone call, by email, maybe by video call like this. That would work as well. Yeah, and at the moment, we've talked about matchmaking and introductions. These, of course, are more difficult over online than in real life. But at the same time, it's still possible. I mean, for the Taiwanese, it's also a challenge that they cannot travel, that they cannot visit the Netherlands, for example. Yeah, this really is something which is bothering some companies. So there's also, yeah, I mean, although the change to online formats is yeah, not easy, I think it's really worth to try this and to continue engaging with Taiwan. So please contact us. We will share our contact details after this call, and also the slides will be shared. I believe there will also be shared a video after this webinar. And yes, get in good touch with us, and we would like to see how we can then help you. More questions? I think we're also running out of time, so we would like to give a final word of this webinar to our representative, Mr. Kiewicz. To you the final words.
We learned from this that we should not move our chair and move in. So next time everyone gets a seat. Just one thing, it's very important that the questions that are unanswered, please send them to us. So we are not going to go over all the questions again, because some of them may be answered, but please resend questions that you really want to be addressed to, and we'll make sure that we answer them. From my side, I'd like to thank you for joining us. It will be my last webinar because I'll be moving to the Netherlands at the end of this month after 5 years in Taiwan. And I know that many of you that have joined today I've worked with, so allow me to thank you for our cooperation in all these years. I hope that you will give the same support to my successor, who will be landing here soon in August, Guido Tielman, who is the current Consul General of the Netherlands in Mumbai. And I wish you a lot of success with your business in Taiwan. Taiwan is a great place to do business. There are many opportunities in all the areas that were just mentioned. And so if I don't see you in the Netherlands, I may see you back again when I'm back here for my holidays or other purposes here in Taiwan. Thank you very much.
Okay, that concludes our webinar. So like Guy mentioned, questions which have not been answered during the webinar will be answered over email or other means of communication over the next few days after this webinar, and the slides will be shared. Thank you.
Thank you.